It's unbelievable what they did to Hanzo Hasashi in this new Mortal Kombat 1 timeline. The man who used to be the original Scorpion, an iconic character, was not only left out of the new game, but also had his entire story drastically downgraded, turning him into something far less important than he ever was. Through Smoke's arcade ending in Mortal Kombat 1, we're introduced to this new version of Hanzo Hasashi, and honestly, I'm completely shocked by what they did to him. There were so many great paths they could have taken, but they chose the strangest one possible. Hanzo Hasashi has always been one of the central characters in the entire Mortal Kombat storyline. He was the man who had his family and his Shirai Ryu clan completely wiped out and was murdered himself. After his death, Hanzo found himself in the Netherrealm, where he crossed paths with the demon Quan Chi. Quan Chi saw incredible destructive potential in Hanzo's soul, fueled by rage and grief. Because of that, he resurrected Hanzo as a Spectre, granting him Hellfire powers. And that's how Scorpion was born, rebuilt from vengeance. Throughout all these years, Scorpion has always been one of the fan favorites, easily one of the most recognizable and beloved characters in all of gaming. Alright, here's what happened. In the second timeline, introduced in Mortal Kombat 9 back in 2011, we see Scorpion finally getting his revenge by killing Bi-Han, the original Sub-Zero, the man he believed was responsible for slaughtering his clan and his family. But later we find out that this was all part of Quan Chi's manipulation, and that's why in MKX 2015, Scorpion finally gets true revenge by tearing off Quan Chi's head, killing the demon once and for all. After the death of the first Sub-Zero, his younger brother, Kuai Liang, took up the mantle and became the second man to carry the Sub-Zero name. But unlike Bi-Han, Kuai Liang was completely different, peaceful, honorable, and firmly aligned with the forces of good. Over time, he and Scorpion actually became close friends and powerful allies. The problem is that in Mortal Kombat 11, 2019, at the end of the story mode, Hanzo ends up being killed by D'Vorah. The insect creature drives her claws through him and injects her venom. Sadly, Hanzo doesn't survive the injuries. He truly dies right there. But in the same game, Mortal Kombat 11, after defeating the main villain Kronika, Liu Kang, now the Fire God, uses her hourglass to rewrite the entire universe exactly the way he wants. And this is where everything goes crazy, because from that moment on, everything starts to change. Liu Kang's total rewrite of the universe creates a brand new timeline, and that leads directly into the story we see in Mortal Kombat 1. A lot changed in this new universe. Now, Kuai Liang is Scorpion. Yes, while Bi-Han remains Sub-Zero, his brother takes on the role of Scorpion. And then the big question showed up. If Hanzo Hasashi isn't Scorpion anymore, where did he end up? With that, a bunch of theories started popping up. One of them suggested that Hanzo might actually be the new Smoke, since the trailers showed a really interesting dynamic between Kuai Liang and Smoke, and narratively, that idea kinda made sense. Another theory claimed that Hanzo Hasashi could be the noob Saibot of this new timeline. In the previous continuity, the original Sub-Zero, Bi-Han, died and was transformed into Noob Saibot in the Netherrealm. So with Bi-Han still alive in this timeline, it wasn't crazy to think that Hanzo might take on that identity instead. And then there was the fan favorite theory, the one most people hoped for, including me. The idea that Hanzo Hasashi would finally just be a normal man, living a peaceful, happy life with his family. After everything Hanzo went through in the old timeline, it made sense to imagine that Liu Kang might have felt compassion for him and chosen to give him a calm, ordinary life. But none of that happened. Not a single theory was right. Thanks to Smoke's arcade ending, we finally see, for sure, what actually happened to Hanzo Hasashi in Mortal Kombat 1. Smoke begins by explaining that he and Kuai Liang worked hard to create a new clan, and that even with the help of Kuai Liang's friend Hirumi, the process was still incredibly difficult. The biggest challenge they faced was finding good beginner students, until one night, while Tomas, Smoke, was walking outside the compound, he was suddenly attacked. But because he was far more skilled than his opponent, he defeated him with ease. Smoke then discovered that the attacker was a young assassin from the Lin Kuei, but his fighting style was unstable, impulsive, and driven by anger. exactly the kind of behavior a trained ninja is supposed to avoid. After subduing him, Smoke realized the boy was just a homeless, starving kid who attacked out of pure desperation. He had no money, no food, so in his mind, attacking someone passing by felt like the only option he had left. At that moment, Smoke saw himself in the boy. He even says it was like looking at his younger self from 15 years earlier. Smoke admits that he would have killed the kid right then and there if their lives hadn't been so similar, but out of empathy, he chose to help him instead. The Gray Ninja then brought the boy to Kuai Liang, who also recognized his potential. Smoke and Scorpion made that young kid the first recruit of the new Shirai Ryu. And at the end of it all, Smoke reveals the boy's name, Hanzo Hasashi. That's right, in this new timeline, Hanzo Hasashi is now just a kid, a former young Lin Kuei assassin who was rescued by Smoke and Scorpion and trained as the very first student of the new Shirai Ryu. When you explain it like that, it almost sounds fine, but once you actually stop and think about it, there's a lot of weird and honestly pretty bad stuff going on here. The woman who used to be his wife, the woman Hanzo deeply loved in the previous timelines, still exists as an adult, and she's described as a very close friend of Kuai Liang, the new Scorpion. And even worse, in the Khaos Reign expansion, we actually see that Kuai Liang married Harumi. So basically, they took everything away from Hanzo. They took his incredible powers and gave them to another character. They took his entire epic backstory. They took the major role he always had in the narrative. And in exchange, they turned him into a random angry kid who might one day become a skilled ninja. Maybe. Think about it like this. Let's bring this situation into the DC Comics universe for context. Imagine Superman, the iconic hero, powerful, beloved by a massive fan base. Now, imagine they reboot the universe and make Superman just a little boy with no superpowers, while Lois Lane, the great love of his life in the original timeline, is now married to Bruce Wayne. And Bruce Wayne, in this new reality, becomes Superman. He gets all of Superman's powers, while Clark Kent is just a regular kid. See how bizarre that sounds? So yeah, really thinking about it, this was a pretty bad choice in my opinion. But somehow, they still found a way to make it even worse. I do believe they can still create a lot of great stories with him. Hanzo can absolutely be explored for a long time in this new universe. After all, he's still just a kid. And when you think about it, there are a few positives in this whole change. It's not entirely bad. We saw back in Mortal Kombat X that Takeda Takahashi, a young student trained by the Shirai Ryu, had a really solid character arc. Of course, he's not on the same level as the original Scorpion, Hanzo Hasashi, who always had a much richer and more emotional story. But it at least shows that younger characters within this clan can work. And if we actually analyze it, this new direction does bring some good things. Now we know exactly how the new Shirai Ryu was formed, who its founders were, and who their very first student was, young Hanzo Hasashi. It's undeniable that his life is now a blank page, ready to be written in countless different ways. And that depends entirely on the developers and writers creating something worthy of the character. I get what they're trying to do, telling a new story from scratch, that's cool. But man, taking a character who is already top tier, incredibly well developed with an amazing background, and turning him into just a little kid, it's really weird. He always fought for his family, and now, in this new timeline, the woman he loved is married to Kuai Liang, who used to be his best friend in the previous timeline. Think about how bizarre that is. They took Hanzo's entire legacy, everything that made him who he was, and handed it all to Kuai Liang, leaving Hanzo with literally nothing. At this point, all we can do is hope they create a truly great storyline for our beloved Hasashi. Anyway, that's it guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot.